What is up, people of the multiverse? Welcome back to a brand new Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3 review on the channel. And wow, okay, well, it looks like we've got a whole month to wait to find out what happens after that cliffhanger. And this episode was full of all kinds of things. As you can imagine, this is Crisis after all, so there was a whole bunch going on. And as usual, we've got a lot to talk about, probably more to talk about than what I talked about in the past couple of episode reviews. So I'm going to get straight into this, but before we do, guys, go ahead and like this video. If you do go on to enjoy it, I'd really appreciate that. And of course, subscribe to make sure you never miss out on the video. Not only that, guys, don't forget we are on a break now over the Christmas period before we get those final 2 episodes. So be sure to look out on the channel for all kinds of content related to Crisis and everything else that I usually cover. But let's get right into this because, yeah, this has been a crazy ride so far, and this episode just made things even crazier. So as usual with Crisis so far, of course, we had to get a couple of cameos, and that included a couple of characters from Earth 203, which was New Gotham. Now, this saw the Huntress on the run from the antimatter wave. She was speaking to Barbara, or should I say Oracle, and then we saw that world get wiped out. And this episode, guys, in terms of cameos, I mean, for crying out loud, we got Lucifer, and I cannot wait to speak about that because some of you may know this or not, I'm a huge fan of the Lucifer show. But things more or less started in this episode on the Wave Rider. As usual, they stated that they located 4 of the 7 paragons needed. This is when Team Flash arrived because, of course, this was the Flash episode. And, you know, just in general, like, in these moments in the episode, it kind of made me feel like other characters should have been in this crossover a lot earlier. I feel like this crossover so far has been fairly episode-oriented, and you may say that makes sense because in Batwoman, you had a few, you know, of the characters in that. In, you know, Supergirl, you had a few characters in that, but that doesn't mean, for example, when Oliver Queen died in episode 1, you should have had Diggle in there. So that's kind of what I'm on about. You shouldn't have kept Diggle till this part of the crossover, because when he arrived, he kind of said everything that I had on my mind. How could you let this happen, Sarah? I wasn't there when he needed me. And I was just like, exactly. Like, you were looking after your freaking kid where you could have got any babysitter in the world to do that. Like, it's just ridiculous, to be honest. And I definitely don't really agree with that part. You know, I'm not hating on this, just saying it doesn't really make a whole bunch of sense to keep some characters like that out of it for no particular reason. We got some information that Earth 1 will still be the place where the antimatter wave will hit last. We found out that Martian Manhunter is the 5th paragon of honor, the Flash is the paragon of love, and Ryan Choi is the paragon of humanity, who they also needed to seek out in this episode. And also the team picked up that Lila could very well be with the Anti-Monitor, and the Monitor even stated that he should have seen that his connection with Harbinger could have been perverted to his ends, which, holy crap, by the end of this episode, that was the understatement of the century. And also, to dice this out the way quickly, this episode as well, we had Batwoman and Supergirl scenes, which seem to be rotating around the whole thing throughout the episode. I've seen mixed opinions on this. A lot of you in yesterday's video said, why didn't you speak about Batwoman taking the kryptonite? I actually did, believe it or not, but sometimes I cut whole things out because I think you guys realize I speak for long enough as it is. She took that kryptonite from Bruce Wayne's exosuit, and, you know, I did mention in yesterday's video, I thought that she might be reserving it just in case Kara wanted to bring back Earth 38. She would have done it to kind of protect Kara in her own best interests, as it was revealed even by Lex again this episode that if you were to try and bring back Earth 38, it could drive you mad like Deegan in the Elseworlds crossover. This didn't really amount to anything. It did get to that point where Kara did say, yeah, as if you'd be able to stop me kind of thing, and Batwoman was like, well, you would be surprised. And I was like, I was kind of, you know, secretly wishing for some kind of, like, you know, kryptonite wielding moment. Kate was getting ready for it, but that was that. But she keeps the kryptonite, and I guess, you know, you never know when a Kryptonian might go crazy. And you know what, to be honest, I really wouldn't be surprised if in the future, because, you know, Supergirl and Batwoman are going to be this kind of new duo of the Arrowverse, if they somehow in the future in a kind of Arrow and the Flash crossover kind of way, but with Batwoman and Supergirl, they kind of do a storyline like Batman versus Superman, where Kara, whether that's for a certain element of kryptonite, goes evil, and, you know, Kate has to use this kryptonite that she's kept from this episode. Just wanted to chuck that in there. Irrelevant to this episode in a way, but, you know, just speculation for the future years of the Arrowverse. But lo and behold, everyone, Vibe is back. Thank God. I enjoy this version of Cisco more. It was also great to just have Cisco in this episode. Yet again, another character that should have been in it earlier. One thing I hope after this crossover is that he gets to keep his vibe powers. But anyway, Cisco realizes that Nash's work site is the place of where the antimatter originated. Now, this is where things get very interesting for me, because I've been saying this ever since the Flash's latest episode, in terms of last week's Flash episode, as to what the heck was going on in that pariah scene. Now, a lot of you were kind of calling me crazy for that, but then there was a lot of you saying, no, Boba, you were definitely right about whoever Nash Wells was talking to, because that monitor, air quotes, monitor voice was definitely off. And that is when Pariah arrives, and he says that he searched these tunnels for Marnovu to kill him, but now he is being controlled by the anti-monitor, because the anti-monitor was manipulating him so he could gain a foothold in this universe. And now he is forced to bear witness as he destroys world after world, which, you know, is a part of Pariah's storyline anyway. But this kind of makes it crystal clear that on December 9th, in these screenshots you're seeing on screen right now, who Nash Wells was speaking to was indeed the anti-monitor. Now, the only reason I kept doubting myself in terms of thinking who he was talking to in that scene, because I saw not many people picked up on this. I guess a lot of people just assumed that he was speaking to the monitor, and he just kept saying bow down to me, and it was just very anti-monitory anyway. Whereas before I thought that it didn't fully add up, because I was saying when Pariah was created was on December 9th, and that's how the anti-monitor got the foothold in this universe. Well, we all know that antimatter waves were being sent out, for example the one that destroyed Earth 2 beforehand. But in this episode at the same time, we also learned that after the monitor, which is another explanation we got in this episode, thankfully, when he disappeared, for example, Earth 90's Barry Allen, he ended up in the Netherverse where the anti-monitor found him and used him to build the cannon and test fired it on Earth 2. So it makes sense now that the anti-monitor could indeed send out antimatter even before Pariah was created. So after they utilized Vibe's powers to enter the room, this is where they figured out that this is the nexus between the antimatter universe and their own, and the antimatter cannon is the source of the wave. So this is where we find out that Barry Allen from Earth 90 is trapped running on that treadmill. God knows how long he's been doing that, considering, you know, he ended up in the Netherverse a whole year ago in the Elseworlds crossover. But this is also where we found out after Vibe breached the force field and stopped the cannon by getting John Wesley Shipp's Barry Allen out of there, the anti-monitor designed the treadmill with a failsafe that would destroy all Earths at once if it wasn't, you know, running with a speedster on it. So it kind of confused me. Like, was anyone else wondering why didn't the anti-monitor just not do that in the first place? If he had the ability to destroy all Earths at once, would he just not do that? Or I guess you could argue in comic book logic, he enjoys the fact that there's a whole band of the multiverse's heroes trying to stop him. But really, you know, he could have done it whenever he wanted, so yeah, whatever. But people of the multiverse, we are going to take a little bit of a break from the antimatter cannon room and take a little trip to Earth 666, or Earth 666, whatever way you want to say it, Los Angeles, and that's where we had John Constantine, Diggle, and Mia go and see Lucifer Morningstar. Now, if you guys weren't aware already, this Lucifer you were seeing in this episode was apparently set 5 years before the TV show, where he was kind of in that no F's given mode. He has just come from hell to LA, partying all the time, hasn't met the detective yet. So it's set all before the events of the TV show. This is in Tom Ellis's words himself. So that's just a little fun fact for all the Lucy fans out there. I absolutely love this. And having Lucifer and Constantine in the same scenes was just incredible. He even did that "what is it you desire" moment to Mia, which was just, you know, as a Lucy fan myself, was just, I love it. And he's only doing this soul retrieval because he owes John Constantine for Maze. Now, Maze, if you didn't already watch the Lucifer TV show, is like Lucifer's second-hand man, or lady, should I say. So I'm guessing Maze ended up in a spot of trouble, and John Constantine maybe helped her get from hell to Earth. Who knows really what storyline they made up for that, but it was a cool little kind of Easter egg, if you will. This is where he gives them a card, a nice little kind of devil card. It is basically a pass into purgatory. However, it does have limited time though, and this was all, if you guys remember from the end of last episode, to gain access to purgatory to get Oliver's soul back. back, because yeah, once you are revived from the Lazarus pit, you kind of need your soul, because otherwise you'll kind of wander around like a feral ghoul out of a Fallout game. And you gamers should know what I'm on about there. So this is where we went to Lian Yu, which is ironically Mandarin for purgatory, where they actually needed to go, and we found out that souls choose their own prison, so this is naturally where Oliver Queens would go. Now this is where Oliver is naturally kind of going beastie on everyone there, because, you know, of the whole missing soul thing, and he snaps out of it because of Diggle. Now, as I said, I feel like for me, it's a little bit too late to do this. Don't get me wrong, I appreciated Diggle reaching out to Oliver in this moment. It was emotional, but you really should have had Diggle when Oliver actually died in the crossover. Now, I'm not negating that the Arrowverse isn't going to attempt to do another emotional death with Oliver as the Spectre now, when he actually does save the multiverse, because he's going to be ultra super powerful now, because this is where the actual Spectre arrived very randomly, Jim Corrigan, and he explains how he was a hero in his own right, but then he was called to a higher purpose, and it's Oliver's turn now to save everyone. So he accepts the mantle of the Spectre, everyone disappears, it's kind of left like that for now. You know, Mia said to the people of the Wave Rider, like, you know, Dad didn't want to come back with us, but really, he's going to come back, but in the next part. But yeah, like, as for like sentimentality or whatever they were trying to get across on screen there, I kind of felt it, but like, we needed Diggle there when Oliver fell, and I know probably a lot of people feel the same way. And on another note, I'm just curious as to how they're handling this Oliver Queen situation and storyline in the episode. I can't fully critique it yet, as we haven't seen the whole crossover, but I do wonder if by the end of it, maybe that they should have reserved Oliver Queen dying to only just one time, and that he should have been in this crossover alive, just like how Barry Allen is this whole time, and then when he does die, you know, for the first time, it maybe would have been a lot more impactful. But, you know, I'll revisit this in a future video when Crisis is over, and we can kind of analyze each character's storylines and how it was handled, and, you know, what maybe would have been better according to the fans, and just my own personal opinion. But let's move on to Earth 1, Ivy Town, where, as we kind of found out, the paragon of humanity was Ryan Choi, and he fanboys out over Ray Palmer, which is very fitting, you know, for the mantle of the Atom in the future. But I really did enjoy the scenes between Iris convincing Ryan to help, because, you know, at this point, Earth 1, as already mentioned, was the only Earth left, and it's kind of introduced Iris's superpower, which, you know, is kind of true, through a flashback scene, which was very feelsy. I really liked this, where we had Barry realizing that maybe in this episode it was his destiny for him to vanish in Crisis through stopping the wave. Like, this could be his purpose. We had that whole back and forth between them, and that is when she managed to persuade Ryan Choi to help out. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the future. We do know that he's already been seen in some of the trailers. Maybe you're seeing it on screen right now, for example, where all of the heroes are about to face the Anti-Monitor. For some reason, Ryan Choi is there, but with a beard. But let's go back to the room, which was the nexus between the antimatter universe and their own. And this is where, by the way, I love that moment, I have to say it now, where both speedsters, you know, both Barrys, should I say, entered flash time. And they kind of came to the realization that through reversing the treadmill's directional velocity, you know, that it could make the antimatter wave recede. But this is where I have to mention as well, Black Lightning arrives to the Arrowverse thanks to Pariah. Now, in case you missed it on Black Lightning, they kind of explained it here, but I recommend checking the clip out if you haven't already seen it. Maybe it's on YouTube, maybe just watch it on the CW, but his Earth got wiped out alongside his family, and I felt very, very sorry for Jefferson here. I feel like Cress Williams did an amazing job just in this moment, because you kind of have to realize he lost his whole Earth, he lost his family, he had literally only just learnt this, but then he was kind of told to like focus on saving the multiverse. Could you only imagine kind of going through that, but then trying to answer a higher call? Oh man, I really felt that in this moment. It was a really cool scene. And at this moment, Barry says goodbye to OG Team Flash, which, you know, was feelsy, but, you know, I have to admit, I wasn't mega sucked into this moment, just because I don't know if you guys have been watching my trailer breakdowns for Crisis, but I practically called this moment out, but I didn't only call it out now, I called it out like a year ago, but I wasn't the only one. Many other YouTubers have said this and gone over this theory, because the predictable happened. But I do at the same time admit that I didn't necessarily think it would happen, just because it kind of was seen as a bit of a cop-out, because Earth 90's Barry Allen at this moment stole Barry's speed to give him a bit more of a boost. Calls it a neat trick you learn after being a speedster for so long. I love that little kind of reference, by the way. Like, there's a lot more that Barry can still learn. And he says that Marnovu said the Flash had to die, but not which one, which is, oh, who would have guessed that? Like, we've kind of been saying that for the longest time now, which, you know, is a cop-out, I have to admit. It was cool, like, especially the way they did it. When he died, it was just wonderful how they added in that OG scene with Tina. Like, that was just perfect. It really, really was. And then you see the antimatter wave disappear just before it hits Earth 1. But, you know, I was really hoping that somehow they would still kill Barry. And we all knew that he would be coming back, because naturally, you've got the rest of the Flash season 6. You got the Flash season 7, so we all knew that would be happening. But, you know, it would have been a cool way to think for the rest of the Christmas break, oh, how are they going to bring Barry back now? But maybe that would have been lame, because they've already killed Oliver off, brought him back, so it would have been a rehash of that. But at the same time, what they've done with Earth 90's Barry Allen here was very predictable. For example, how in the latest trailer breakdown, I even pointed out how when he said the line, "Keep riding the lightning, kid," I even said, I bet that is one of his final lines just before he does whatever they need to do instead of Barry Allen. And literally, that happened word for word as I said it. And that was just kind of a disappointment to me. I just don't really know how to feel about this. I feel like the predictability was a bit of a letdown. I do realize at the same time things being predictable isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's just because we all kind of knew what was going to happen in this moment for not just like only a couple of weeks because of the trailers, but for a whole year. We didn't know it for sure, you could say, but it was, you know, probably the most obvious one to go to. I have to say as well, when Black Lightning spoke to Barry and the Wave Rider, that was one of the best scenes in the whole episode. I think, you know, Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning being the Arrowverse, it's like we all kind of knew anyway he was, but, you know, there was a lot of back and forth with comments from showrunners, even actors and actresses themselves saying, you know, do we need to be a part of that? La-di-da-da. But this moment really shows how well he fits. I don't know, I just love that line where he said we should honor their memory and rage against the dying of the light. I don't know, it was just kind of like Barry, the Flash, letting Black Lightning in the fold. And it was just great. I trust a lot of you will reciprocate these thoughts in the comments, because it was just such a great scene. But ladies and gentlemen, this is when Harbinger returned, and she didn't really remember her time with the Anti-Monitor, but they kind of figured out, you know, whilst this was all going down, that he probably wanted her back on the ship, and he only allows Pariah to appear when he wants him to kind of witness a great tragedy. And that's when Lila kind of hulks out in Anti-Monitor mode, and with her hand she just takes down all of the heroes. And that's when the Monitor kind of says that the safety of all humanity lies with Pariah now. And I actually didn't know what he was going to do. All of this was very unexpected to me. Like, I knew Lila was going to kind of freak out like this. It was kind of, you know, if you kind of know the Crisis storyline, what you knew whereabouts it was headed. But as I always say, the CW iteration would be different. It's kind of never copy and paste, no matter what live action iteration you do. We had that kind of little Voldemort versus Harry Potter situation with the Anti-Monitor and the Monitor, kind of, you know, with both their kind of magical beams going at each other. That, I don't know, it just reminded me of Harry Potter. And that's when the Monitor loses and dies. We got the Mobius reference, which is, you know, the Anti-Monitor's name, and he says it was foolish of him to allow his creation in the first place. So a little bit more lore there, a little bit more peeks at the lore that I hope we get a little bit more into. And lo and behold, guys, Earth 1 is gone, and the Wave Rider is literally all that's left. The Anti-Monitor was kind of bigging it up with the whole, the infinite Earths are all gone now, and that's when Pariah uses his powers. He teleports the remaining paragons, but who remains on the Wave Rider dies, which is literally Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, Diggle, Pariah, Iris, Ralph. They're all gone. But it was very interesting seeing where Pariah teleported them to, because that's when Sarah, who of course is part of Legends of Tomorrow, knows all about the Vanishing Point, a place outside of time and space where the Anti-Monitor can't follow. Now this next moment, I have to say, guys, was quite a disappointing moment to me. This is where Brandon Routh's Superman kind of like disappears. I don't know if you would say that he died. It's kind of confusing to know what happens with this Book of Destiny rewritten kind of moment, because that's when Lex Luthor did use the Book of Destiny to rewrite over Superman's spot as a part of the Paragon to end up at the vanishing point because it was foretold in the Book of Destiny. So, you know, the reason why I'm disappointed is because I would have rathered Brandon Routh's Superman be a part of this kind of final fight rather than Lex Luthor. I mean, this moment does make sense because, as I kind of went over earlier, just like with Ryan Choi, in that trailer, we did see that Lex Luthor was a part of that kind of heroic triangle that was getting ready to charge against the Anti-Monitor. But I don't know about you guys, but I would rather the Brandon Routh Superman any day over Lex Luthor in this moment. And, you know, I do like this Lex, but at the same time, I'm not a massive fan of his iteration of Lex Luthor. But that's just me. It really is just me. I know some people love the Supergirl's Lex, but yeah, would rather the Brandon Routh Superman. Like, what the hell? Come on. I don't want this Lex. Go away. And that is it, guys. The end of part 3, where we literally have Ryan Choi remaining. We have Martian Manhunter, Supergirl, Batwoman, The Flash, Sarah Lance, you know, a White Canary, whatever you want to say it, and then Lex Luthor. So yeah, they're gonna have to figure out how to save the multiverse. The multiverse is gone. It's practically just the antimatter universe now. There is no Earths remaining. And, you know, it is definitely an interesting way to end it off. I mean, we do have the whole Christmas break to wait now until things resolve, and we find out how this all exactly ends, how things will be different forever, and how nothing will ever be the same again. But, you know, let me know what you think. You know, I'll end this video by saying that this part was good. I think it was my most enjoyable part so far. I think the first episode was probably the second favorite of mine. So either way, I'll reflect all upon this in a future video. But what I want to leave this video off with you guys is that how do you feel about this crossover so far? Because I'm reading plenty of comments on the videos that I've done on Crisis so far, you know, part 1 and part 2, and it'll be interesting to see the comments on this video. But a lot of people are feeling underwhelmed by this crossover. And this isn't just one person saying it. It's not just 5. It's not just 10. There are plenty of people. But just as there are plenty of people saying that they didn't enjoy certain elements, there are lots of people, of course, saying that they are finding this awesome. But it's also just interesting to see what they're saying it about. I think a lot of people are maybe suffering from the overhype of Crisis on Infinite Earths. But not only that, of course, maybe just how the story is being handled anyway. I know I have my whole range of issues with that personally. Like, I'm still enjoying it, don't get me wrong, but there are definitely a fair amount of elements that I'm thinking, okay, I wouldn't have done it like that, and you guys probably know what I'm on about. I've already voiced quite a few of them. But yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised with how many comments people are saying this is so disappointing. Like, other than that, everyone, like this video if you have got this far and if you have enjoyed it. I'd really appreciate that. Make sure you do subscribe for all future videos on Crisis and anything else on this channel. Other than that, everyone, you can follow me on the links down below. They're probably appearing on screen right now. You can click on my past couple of videos appearing here. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you people of the multiverse in the next video. Goodbye.